All right, let me pop this up. You'll see here now, you should see his name just populated here at Gadget 440. That's his YouTube. His Twitter handle is a little lengthier. So if you're looking for his Twitter handle, just go to his YouTube. The handle's there. On Gadget's YouTube, he also has ways that you can support him through. It's like called like a cup of coffee. You can support him there. Make sure you're subscribed to his channel, and if you're on X, following him on X. Let me just tell you just briefly. Gadget and I don't really know each other. He does not even live in this country. He's across the pond. I'm not 100% sure where Gadget lives. I think the UK somewhere. But I've been following Gadget's reporting on YouTube and on Twitter for probably 5 or 6 months now. Being a former conservative in a conservative area, there's a lot of influence that Andrew Tate has had over people in my life, and Andrew Tate is a scumbag. He's not a good person. He's credibly accused of multiple crimes. He's under investigation, at least in 3 different countries, with charges in 2. And Gadget has gone above and beyond to follow this. I don't know that anybody that I follow online has a better understanding of not only what's going on with Andrew Tate, but does a better, I don't know of anybody that does a better job covering the lies that Andrew Tate repeatedly tells. Now, Andrew Tate has been here in America, and he's going on podcasts all over the place, paying people allegedly, and trying to clear his name from the fact that he has multiple sexual assault charges, sex trafficking charges. And so last week I reached out to Gadget just to see, like, hey, could we get you on? He was gracious enough to do it, had a little bit of time for us today, and so we're going to take care of that. Yeah, cue the Andrew Tate bros in the chat. They will be here. They will be reporting heavily. Fortunately for us, TikTok didn't let us go live this morning anyway, so we don't have to worry too much about getting taken down. Gadget, can you hear me?
Hello, Jay. How are we going?
Good, brother. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good. Had a bit of a tech issue with the camera, so apologies for that.
That's all right. It's good to have you. Thank you so much for making some time for us. I wanted to start just I went back. You've been covering Andrew Tate for over a year now, at least.
Yeah. Since mid-2023, I've been covering him pretty extensively.
How did this happen? How did you wind up covering Andrew Tate?
It's pretty wild how I fell into it. So, long story short, it kind of started with January 2022. So around the time of Tate's rise to fame and notoriety, I got very chronically ill post-COVID infection and became eventually unable to work in the job I was working and became very chronically online as I saw Tate's rise to fame, I guess. So I was kind of watching, I was interested in the case and just the impact he was having on young lads and young men and boys. And I started really posting and initially campaigning about it when I went to do a thread on Hustlers University, which is now called The Real World.
Oh, they changed it to The Real World?
It's The Real World now. So
how'd they make it worse?
I don't know, but it all kind of. I initially started to do one thread after Tristan blocked me because I made fun of him or something. I can't remember, and I started researching for one thread just because I had seen all these videos of these kids promoting The Real World Hustlers University, and just researching for that one thread, I found actually that they were targeting like really, really young kids, like 11, 12-year-old kids, which was alarming. And then I started from there posting about it and sharing these videos. And it got to the point I had like a few lads reach out to me and say I was in there, and they described what I believe is like a genuine cult environment, that they were isolated from their friends and family. They were being pushed to cut out sleep and just do work for Tate.
No, for anybody who doesn't understand, Hustlers University, that's like an online, I wouldn't call it a school, but a program that he started, and his rise to fame, if I understand correctly, largely came from getting the people who joined Hustlers University to promote Hustlers University. So it was like an MLM cult that where these kids got in and they just started pumping out like Andrew Tate videos, right?
100%. And so I started a petition at the time, and this is before I actually started on YouTube, about 6 months before, because I found that they were recruiting, 12, 13, 14-year-old like schoolboys into what I believed was a pyramid scheme,
Yeah.
and then a cult environment from there. So I started a petition that got a 20 something odd thousand signatures to remove the app, because I had an app for the real world in the real world or Hustle University in the Play Store and App stores.
This is in the
And we got
UK, right? For
all over.
excuse me, the petition was for to get removed to the from the App Store in the UK.
Everywhere. So
Oh,
we got it removed everywhere. So Google took it down first, then Apple jumped in, and because I collaborated with a journalist who was working for Vice News at the time, who helped me put out some really good articles about how Tate was recruiting these young kids. And so we got the apps taken down. Then his I don't know if you've seen one of his sidekicks, Justin Waller, who is this big musty guy with the tightest pants in the world.
I'll put a picture up while you're describing him. Yeah,
please do. But Waller, he was one of the ringleaders, because Tate was banned on TikTok, and these kids couldn't post clips of Tate on TikTok promoting it to recruit more kids. So they started using Justin Waller. So he had a YouTube channel with 600,000 subscribers. And he was literally just straight out saying, "Oh, I've got kids that are 12, 13 years old making more money than their parents and their teacher," just targeting children.
And they were making their money by selling Hustlers University, right? That's how they made their money, these kids.
Yeah, so they had one specific campus in there. They call the affiliates campus, like it's a university campus. And for those that don't know how this worked, and this, like you said, is how Tate really got famous and all over social media, was because he had these kids that were getting told that they were going to get rich by chopping up videos of Andrew Tate talking in podcasts and posting them with affiliate links that they could make a small commission if they recruited other kids. But I spoke to countless kids that said no one in there was making any money. They were being promised that they were being told that all these little children were making $10,000 a week and all this rubbish, and so it was a whole mess. So that's kind of how I really started getting into it. And then I started my YouTube channel November that year, 2023, and then started getting into more covering the case in Romania and learning more about that, and covering some other characters on my YouTube channel, and that's kind of really how it all started. So I kind of got sick, was chronically online, and had too much time on my hands, and just started falling into it, and didn't expect to make a living on it, which I'm starting to do now. So that's kind of how it all happened.
Your channel's growing quickly right now. I noticed the view count in the last month or so has exploded.
Yeah, it really picked up since last November, when Tate was doing a lot of scams, and because all the time, because I'm covering the real world, and I'll have kids in there that have signed up, realized it was a scam, but got scammed into paying for like a year-long membership.
How much does a membership cost them?
$50 a month.
Okay.
And they'll push them to say, if you want to be a real G, sign up for 12 months. There's all sorts of grifts, but yeah, my channel really picked up in November because Tate was just doing a series of scams, just scamming all these kids in there, and he did a Lamborghini Lamborghini scam. So he said he was going to give away a Lamborghini if everyone was signed up to the real world, bought $1,000 worth of his shitcoin daddy.
Yes, I forgot about the shitcoin.
Yeah, there's a meme coin called Daddy.
Stupid.
So basically, give Andrew Tate money and you can win a Lamborghini. And what ended up happening was they were streaming. They did it live on stream where they gave away this car. And this is how stupid these guys are. They got this guy to fly in from Florida to Texas to the workshop where the car was to pick up the car in what was supposed to be a random giveaway. So this was meant to be at random, and then this guy's gone on interviews saying like, "Oh, Andrew chose me because I'm such a hard worker," and I'm like, "Show this was supposed to be a giveaway. This was supposed to be a lottery. This is how he promoted it." So they botched it completely. So I started covering that and a few of his other scams, and that's when the channel really picked up from there.
Okay, so Andrew Tate, he was a former kickboxer, actually pretty good kickboxer. Then he got, I think he did the cam stuff before Hustlers University. Is that right? Like he was running like a cam girl business.
Oh yes, so he
Okay.
started that in around 2012. And if you listen to him in interviews now, he will say, "Oh, they're bringing up 10, 15 years ago when I ran a webcam company." So he was running one of those, I guess, pornographic webcam companies from around 2012, 2013, all the way up until they were arrested in 2022. So they only stopped because they got caught.
Right.
And and for those that don't know, they were charged with human trafficking. Andrew was charged with rape, forming an organised criminal group. And then later on, there was another investigation in Romania with more women and girls. So Andrew's charged for trafficking a minor and essentially raping a minor as well. So intercourse with a minor, the charge is called.
Tristan as well, too, right?
Oh
Doesn't
yeah,
Tristan have one of those charges as well? His brother.
absolutely. They were both in it together. So there was them and two women that were, I would say, essentially they Ghislaine Maxwell's is the best way to describe them. They would have women that were managing the other women, acting as the muscle. One of the women, for example, has a charge for assault for beating one of the women because Tristan told her to. And
And we
it's
have
all caught
texts
in
of those,
text.
right? Like we have text messages of Tristan instructing her to do that, right?
Mm. Yes, and Tristan has a charge for inciting violence. And the lies that these guys tell about their cases are really incredible. So Tristan, for example, he went on a podcast with Michael Franzese, the former mafia captain,
Yeah.
and said that I got a charge for inciting violence because my girlfriend, we were teasing each other, and I said, "Oh, if you're not careful, no," or they got in a fight with another girl, and I said, "Kick her ass," and they charged me with inciting violence when it's absurd. It's just a full text exchange that I've posted many times, where he said, "Throw her out." So this is a woman that didn't want to make pornography anymore in their trafficking ring, who wanted to leave, didn't want to do it anymore. So Tristan instructed one of the female enforcers, you could say, to throw all her things in a lake and hit her. In those words, he said, "Hit her if you have to. You've seen me do this 100 times." So the evidence against these guys is pretty staggering, considering the amount of support they have. It's pretty wild.
Why do you think it's taking so long in Romania? Because when you hear the Tates talk about it, they'll say a couple of things. They say, number one, that the charges in Romania have been dropped, which have not been dropped, right?
I've said that several times. Yes,
Yeah. Were you on that call with Murder by Crayons, or the Spaces? I can't remember if you were on that
I
one.
was.
That's right. Okay.
I was.
And they read the charges. So Romania charged them with multiple crimes, had them on house arrest. How did they get off of house arrest? How did that happen?
Well, so Andrew was on house arrest for a lot longer than Tristan, and the reason that was cited by the judges was actually his charge for intercourse with a 15-year-old girl. So he was kept on house arrest for longer because the judges determined that he wasn't safe for society, essentially, for that reason. And Andrew was just recently removed from house arrest, just literally because there's a 180-day limit for house arrest in Romania, and that expired. So Tate and their fanboys have been going around saying that it's because the case is falling apart and there's no evidence. Not true. And that's not even getting into what happened a month later when they were allowed to travel to the US.
Yeah, let's talk about that because I think that's for a lot of people. I mean, for those of us that kind of hung around that area of the internet, like we were aware of who Andrew Tate was, but a lot of people are being exposed to Andrew Tate for the first time as he goes on like Patrick Bet David and Candace Owens. You said Michael Francisi. I think Fresh and Fit had him on. Dana White had him at Power Slap. Like he's
Mm.
everywhere. And is that do you get the sense that like that was a way like he thought he could come here and get enough support that Americans would say we won't extradite you back to Romania?
I think 100%. I think so. And I think it's very much backfired on him that he has had these people you mentioned prop him up, but I think that he was expecting to get a hero's welcome, particularly from like MAGA and the right in America. And I don't think that's happened. The majority of them have just, I guess, only now learnt about the seriousness of his crimes and the fact that he's, for example, beaten a girl with a 15-year-old child with a belt on camera, and
That was
it's
wait,
on camera.
that was the 15-year-old, the one that you
That
could
was
see
not
on
the
camera with the belt?
so the 15-year-old that the video's gone around of him beating with a belt is actually the girl that he's charged with trafficking as a 17-year-old by the time that they got to Romania, because she was with him since 2012 in the UK when she was 14 years old,
And
at least, if not earlier.
I saw a clip of her. Is it some of these women who have been, or I guess crimes have been alleged against them? Some of them are defending Tate, right? And is she one of them that is saying like, oh, is she the one that's saying, oh, this was just a game, this was just like role play, or is that a different video?
That's her.
Okay.
So she came out and said this is a game, this is a role play. But as we know, children, minors can't consent to such a thing.
Yeah.
So, um, so yeah, and again, this is Andrew himself has said that she was a child. So in one of his videos where he's essentially teaching other men how to pimp and traffic women into sex work, and just put it all on camera like a moron. Um, he literally said himself, "Oh, Vivian's 21. She's been with me 6 years. She helps me train all the other girls." Just said it casually, so that she was with him at 15.
Just doing some quick math. Yeah, that's 15.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, oh, the charges that are in that charge, was that in Romania, or was that when he was in the UK?
So that charge is for trafficking her to Romania. There is, I should mention, charges pending in the UK for extradition that was approved to go into effect after the Romanian legal proceedings, but there's not a lot of details on those yet. We know that it involves at least charges of human trafficking and rape. We know it involves both brothers again. Um, I suspect that this girl will be involved in those charges, but there's not really much details about them yet.
And then one of the questions I've had is why did they wind up in Romania? Because he's not a Romanian citizen, right? He's a UK. He's
Yeah.
got American citizenship, UK citizenship. How'd they wind up in Romania?
Well, I believe that he and they fled criminal trouble in the UK to move the operations, the trafficking ring, and I say self-confessed trafficking ring. I say self-confessed instead of allegedly with these guys. So they moved because Andrew was being investigated for rape and assault with 4 women who are now civilly suing him over in the UK. And that kind of timeline all coincided with him moving from the UK to Romania. And the reasons that he's given in his own words, because of the Me Too era and that sexual assault allegations are taken less seriously in Romania. I could quote him exactly. He said, "In remote, you can do whatever you want. You're more free." In his words, that's what he said. So he's literally quoted that as a reason.
Okay. I was wondering, the reason I wondered about that is with the elections that happened in Romania, it was a lot of these same podcasters who were platforming Andrew Tate, who are openly saying like Romania is corrupt, that they canceled an election, like a legitimate election, even though everything we've seen on our end says that that Romanian election was heavily influenced by Russia, and that they were creating TikTok views and kind of doing what Andrew Tate did. Like he kind of came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he was a leader. Do you have any? Do you find any connection there between all? I mean, all these same people seem to be involved with the same people.
Absolutely, yes. A good example of that, I think, is one of the biggest Twitter Spaces hosts, or maybe the biggest on X, Mario Nafal. He's been a massive, I don't know if I should use the word simp. I don't know what else to put it, a propagandist, you could say, for the Tates.
Cock is fine.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean he's been pushing hard. The Romanians, they're reversing their election. It's all corrupt, and I think he has a vested interest. The way he has platformed the Tates and spread misinformation with a large platform with the backing of Elon Musk, mind you, is pretty bizarre. So coincidentally, he's been pushing that about the Romanian elections as well.
That's wild. So he's headed back. I think the 24th is when he has to be back in Romania. Is that right?
That's when he's due back, and this will be really interesting. I see a lot of different ways this can go. If they do go back to Romania at all, it's still a question to me. They're supposed to go back for hearing on the 23rd or 24th.
Are you thinking they're still going to try and stay here in the States when you say it's still a question for you?
I would not be surprised, I'll put it that way, if they stay and if they potentially get protection, because that's a whole other topic as well, is the connections they have in the Trump administration and his orbit and his family that are friends with or that support or are fans of these guys. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. So for those who maybe haven't followed, Andrew Tate has met with Don Jr. at Trump Tower. I think Barron Tate is a huge fan. Or Barron Tate, shit, Barron Trump. Yeah, fair enough.
Might as well be.
Yeah, might as well be. And then you mentioned people that said they were a fan. I think you're referring to Alina Habba, who has had to walk that back, but just glowing over Andrew Tate, saying, "I'm such a big fan."
That was really bizarre. Yeah, yeah. She said, yeah, she was a massive fan, and that she compared her quote unquote political persecution to Donald Trump, her client. So that was really strange. And the big one that is reported to have gotten them from Romania to the US is Richard Grenell, the
Yes.
special envoy. So he was reported to have met with the foreign minister of Romania, and there was reports that he was pushing them to allow the Tates to travel to the US. And at the time, we did have word and sources that this was actually a serious thing that might happen, and turns out it did. And he was asked about this, Richard Grenell, and his quote was, and this is again a official for the Trump administration. His quote was that I'm a supporter of the Tates as per my publicly available tweets. That's all he had to say.
Is there? Yeah, I've been trying. Like I've been grappling with this. I don't understand what benefit any of these people in the right wing echo chamber, like the MAGA echo chamber. I don't understand what they get by bringing Tate. Like, is his popularity that big that they get something from it? Even at this point, with all the charges and what people know, is there still some benefit to them for bringing Andrew Tate on board?
With a very fringe audience, sure, but like as I mentioned, even like a lot of MAGA and like even big MAGA accounts on X have been very vocal against this. It's not got the response. Whether they misread the response that it was going to get from the Trump camp, I don't know. And whether Donald Trump himself knows or cares about them, I can't say for sure. But just for example, there's Richard Grenell. There's one of Tate's lawyers, former lawyers, Paul and Gracia. He was the liaison for the Department of Justice. And this guy has been on Twitter just fangirling over Tate, literally attacking his victims and doxing them by name, and just the bottom of the barrel Tate supporter was given a high level role at the Department of Justice, which is incredible, just alarming stuff. So and then the connection with the Trump administration. I mean, I've had a few of my followers not keen to accept the idea. I don't think, but I think it's pretty undeniable. And I've been really pushing for, especially Richard Grenell, to clarify his stance, make a statement, and especially clarify if he's going to interfere with the investigation in Florida, because Ron DeSantis and Attorney General James Uthmeier, when they actually arrived on the plane in Miami, said they knew nothing of this and they were investigating them and launching a criminal investigation.
I believe charged, didn't they? Yeah, or I guess in an investigation. They haven't given charged them with anything yet, right? There's just an investigation ongoing.
That's right. And the reason that's pretty major is that one of the victims in the Romanian case is a Floridian resident, and Tristan recruited her from Miami. So if you see them in interviews at the moment, you'll see them saying, why is Florida investigating us? What could they possibly have? They know full well what they have. They recruited a girl at a war room event for one of their events. Tristan invited her there and recruited her to Romania under the false pretenses of a relationship to try to get her to work on OnlyFans. So it's very clear why Florida is investigating them. And James Uthmeier, the Attorney General, has said plural, there's victims, women, including minors. So it sounds like there's been others come forward about these guys with Florida jurisdiction as well.
Look, that's if the Republicans know anything, it's defending Florida residents who traffic children. Do you have any sense? I mean, you're so deep into this, and like if I scroll, like if I look over at the chat, it's it's you and I being called beta males, which is fine. Do you get a sense like how this became such a movement, like how these younger kids, like what benefit they're getting? Is it just hating women? Like what drives this type of loyalty to Andrew Tate? Do you have any sense of
that? Yeah, definitely, because that's a big part of it. As I mentioned, I've researched and covered his quote unquote university quite a lot, and spoken to a lot of these lads who even are in the program or have been in, and and a big part of what I try to do with my platform is to be welcoming to them. Because I've spoken to a lot of them who have left, and I felt like I was speaking to someone who had like the trauma of someone who's left a cult.
Yeah.
So there is some that are just nasty. There's some that just hate women and see the crimes that he's done and think that's awesome. I'd love to exploit women and hurt women too. But there's many of them who I believe genuinely are in a cult and are brainwashed and don't believe that he's done anything bad, and were recruited when they were either very young or very vulnerable or both. Many of them, they deliberately target, for example, kids from like third world countries with their promotions, saying that there's kids from Kenya and Bangladesh and all these things making money, you can too. So I think it's really desperate young lads who are in a bad place and then start getting fed that it's because the world is wrong and because women have everything easy and men have everything hard. And a lot of this, what I believe, is just really whiny kind of victim kind of messaging that doesn't help them at all. So
when you like when they sign up for, let's say, for Hustlers University, or what did you say it's called now? It's something way stupider.
It's called the Real World now.
The Real World, cool. An online cult that's called the Real World. That's cool. When they first get in there, is that the messaging that they're getting first? Like that you're a victim, the world doesn't like people like us. That's why you're down on your luck, or that's why you're not getting what you want. And if you just become alpha, if you exercise, if you make a lot of money if you promote our cam girls, then women will flock to you and your problems are gone. Is that like the basic pitch?
Basically, the initial pitch is very focused on the get rich quick type thing. Um, Andrew calls it the Matrix. He says the Matrix is going to enslave you and
So
all these
stupid.
things. And yeah, it's stupid. And you need to break free from the Matrix and learn to get rich and wealthy online. Um, so that's how it kind of starts. And then, so this is where it gets kind of dark, I feel, as it goes into real fear mongering where Tate talks a lot about, yeah, like this enslavement thing. He talks about, let's say, he ties in anti-vax stuff and says they're all trying to poison you, they're trying to kill you, they're trying to kill your whole bloodline and end you, and you need to get rich in order to do that.
Yeah.
And only I can teach you how to do that.
That's so stupid. Of course, they have the anti-COVID stuff, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know, like I grew up in a cult, so like I spent 30 years in a cult, so all this stuff to me, it just all rings very similar. Like the guy that started my cult also traffics children, also figured out a way to like get past the idea that most societies have decided is like the foundation, which is monogamy, and they figured out ways around it and to teach people ways around it. But what's interesting with Andrew Tate, and you keep mentioning it, is like all cult leaders, he's actually the one with the group of women. He's actually the one with all the money, and nobody else, it seems, is really making it. I don't know the guy you mentioned at the beginning, oh, Skinny Jeans. Was he famous before, or did he come through this program?
No, he certainly wasn't famous before. So this kind of the program I've described there is, you could say, the lower end, but then there's the higher end of the cult, called that Tate calls the War Room, that people need to pay at the moment it's $8,000 annually to join a Telegram group basically. So Waller joined that in 2019. He's spoken about a lot. Met Tate. He's in a lot of the leaked like War Room group chat messages where they're literally discussing together trafficking women, sex trafficking women. So they're literally teaching how to traffic women into OnlyFans and webcam. Waller was a feature in those.
And
So
that's
he was
using like
involved in all
the
that.
loverboy method. That's what they talk about, right? They teach you to do that.
Yeah, the Loverboy method. And so they'll teach, and there's a lot of confusion about that. So Andrew's version of the Loverboy method is it's just being nice to someone at work, and then they charge you with human trafficking, which is absurd, of
Yeah.
course, ridiculous.
I
Uh,
heard that. It's like if I
so,
gave somebody a handbag, then forever I can be accused. It's like, I don't think that was the
oh
accusation,
my god.
Andrew.
Yeah, he's saying that on Patrick Bet David during the last week. I think he kept saying over and over that yeah, you could buy a girl a handbag and you're charged with human trafficking. It's just absurd stuff. Um, but no, it's actually it's just literally sex trafficking or human trafficking using a false romantic relationship to recruit usually woman. So that's what the Loverboy method is.
So these women are
And yeah,
thinking they have like a relationship with him. They go over, in this case, to Romania, thinking, "Oh, I'm moving with my boyfriend." And then once they're there, it's like, and I've heard him say this, like, you know, it's one of his where he adds his background music and he has his shirt off, and he's like, "If your girl says go out on date, say fuck no, I'm working." You go,
yeah,
I'm working out, I'm with the boys. Like, don't ever let your girlfriend take you out on a date. Like, I assume that's kind of the idea is once they love you, you're like, okay, you've got to work, you've got to match my output. And that's how they put him as a cam to say, like, keep up with me if you want to be taken care of, right?
yeah, and they literally have a recruitment system. He calls it the PhD, which is, and he would sell a course called the PhD course, which stands for the Pimping Hose degree. Not even joking.
Jesus Christ, that's
Um,
stupid.
yeah, yeah, but they would literally teach this method of sex trafficking. Um, so in a paid course, people would pay him, and he'd sit there on video like an idiot, describing his trafficking methods and techniques. Um, So this is really like a lot further reaching than people realize, as in this is like a global, in my opinion, a
Yeah.
global human trafficking ring that, for example, one of Tate's students is a man named Vlad Obu, Romanian guy. He goes by Joe Lambton on social media. He was in Tate's war room. Tate taught him his methods. This man is also now awaiting trial for human trafficking. And while he's waiting trial for human trafficking, he has courses he's selling to teach how to get women on OnlyFans. So it's just still going on. It's still just spreading like a sick freaking virus.
Yeah, it's interesting that they call their degree like colloquially growing up, like we would say things like pimping ain't easy, like we thought we were cool, but he's actually talking about like legitimately that's what they're doing. It's like it's an aptly named degree, a pimping hose degree. You're getting
Yeah,
women and you're taking, from what I've read too, a lot of the times he was getting a 60% cut, and he would just tell the women, "Here's your cut," but like him and his brother texting back and forth, like just give him 30% and tell him it's 50% or whatever. Is that right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he taught this too. It's on video from one of his courses.
Oh.
For example, him saying that I pay the women 30% and tell them it's 50%, but I say that the difference is in tax. But I don't pay taxes because it's in Bitcoin, and you don't have to pay taxes on Bitcoin, which is not true. He just doesn't pay taxes.
Yeah.
um, so he would teach this. But the thing is, some of the women, he would take 100% of the earnings. So he would try to defraud all these women, but the ones especially that he would keep around for a long time, he would take 100% of their earnings. They wouldn't be allowed to leave the house without him or one of the supervisors. There'd be armed guards outside the house, CCTV monitoring them. Yeah, so heavy stuff.
So what I guess do you have a sense, like is there like enough of a social swell now that that you think we can get the Tates to face the music? Are there things that we can do? Obviously, outside of supporting, it's you and Murdered by Crayons who I normally follow. Are there things that we can do to help your guys' work or to help get this message out there? What can we do? Because I mean, I've got a daughter, and
Mm.
everybody here has a woman in their life that they love. And look, I've been catfished, I've been scammed. It's not like only dumb people who fall for scams, or maybe I'm just dumb. Could be that. But what can we do to, number one, help ensure that they see justice, but two, protect those that we love against these types of scams?
There's a few things. Well, firstly, the four women in the UK I mentioned are actually crowdfunding to bring Tate to court for alleged rapes and assaults that were just horribly botched by the police in a criminal investigation. So that's one way. If you search fundraiser for Andrew Tate victims, if you Google that, it'll come up. That's one way. But apart from that, yeah, social media. So we've been, myself, Crayons, you mentioned, and others have been seeing we've been getting a lot more support, has been getting a lot more awareness of how sick these guys are and how serious it is. And we could always use more help because we need to I feel like we urgently need to make as much noise as possible so that, for example, Trump and the Trump administration especially don't interfere with how it looks like they have with the Romanian investigation, with the Florida investigation, and with the UK, because with all this mess of them being allowed to travel to the US, there's, I guess, pushing in the UK to make that extradition immediate and just take them straight to the UK now, where they'll most likely be locked up pre-trial and await trial in the UK, which could be the best case scenario, I think. But yeah, just helping as much as possible. It's important for the women as well, the victims that are out there as well, to see the support because they, for their own safety, can't really come out publicly. So all the support and the posts that everyone does on social media, it actually helps them a lot too. I've had feedback from the lawyers in the UK that they see this and appreciate it as well.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
seeing crowdjustice.com. Is that the one? It's Bring Andrew Tate to Justice
Yes.
in the UK. Okay, looks like they've raised 62,000 pounds, which I don't know what the rate is. Okay, well we'll push that out too. Do you want to shout out your channels real quick, but before you go?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm on YouTube, Gadget 440 on YouTube, and I post pretty heavily on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, on Gadget 440 27447. But yeah, big on YouTube at the moment. Really busy pumping out videos on YouTube. So if anyone's interested, wants to follow the Tate case and his scams and the odd video just making fun of them and how stupid they are, you can find me there.
Well, look, I when I saw your work, I wanted to bring you on. I think it's incredibly important, and I know that there are victims out there who horrific things have happened to them. But I also know that you're putting yourself in the crosshairs, and I'm sure at times it can feel very dangerous to you. I see the comments that are left. I see the reactions on Twitter. So just man to man, I just want to say you're doing incredible work. It's brave, and whatever we can do to help, but keep going, man. I really admire what you're doing.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
You bet, man. Let's do it again sometime.
Will do.
All right, brother. Be well.